right, great. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2021 Service Academy Information Fair. My name is Frank Olson. I'm the Veterans Outreach Representative for Congresswoman Lauren Underwood at our district office in Crystal Lake, and I will be your moderator for today's event. We will begin today with a few words from your elected members of Congress. First, I would like to introduce the Congressman from Illinois 6th Congressional District, Congressman Sean Casten.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm not going to talk too much because it's you're here to learn about the academies, but I want to just give a little bit of context of why this program even exists, because I think it's meaningful to our history and it's meaningful to the moment we're in as a country. We used to have an enlisted army, and we used to get people, we had drafts for various wars, and people served from all over the country. And we've had a volunteer army for a long time, volunteer Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. And during the Civil War, there was a recognition in the United States that the military academies, West Point at the time, was overwhelmingly staffed by Southerners. And there was a concern that that might create a problem. And so Congress passed a rule that said our military academies have to have people from every congressional district in the country, because we want to make sure that people cover the whole country. And there were geographic reasons, there were national security reasons for it at the time. But the result is that our military academies really remain the only part of our military that, regardless of whether or not we have a draft, represents every part of our society. And it's so critically important because for us to understand the consequences of going to war, the risk, the sacrifice, that should be a shared burden. And so that history, I think, is fascinating. It is an amazing privilege and responsibility of the office that we get to nominate people. And I thank you for participating, or at least considering that process. For the parents who are here, as a parent of a high school senior right now, talk to me in a year and maybe I'll have advice for you. I'm figuring it out myself, but thanks for coming along and being educated. For the students, as you think about where to apply, the math here that matters for you is that every member of Congress can nominate up to 10 people for any academy. And every academy has to take at least one person from every member of Congress. The Naval Academy is really, really popular. West Point is really, really popular. The others become somewhat less so. And so just be aware as you're thinking about where to apply that it becomes that some of those schools are going to be more competitive because we've only got 10 slots. And so I would encourage you, number one, to really make sure that you understand what each of the schools does, whether it's a good fit for you. A part of the reason why the Naval Academy is so popular is, I believe, and our representatives here will tell us, they have more majors than a lot of the other schools. So depending on what you want to do is there, but they don't have every major. If you really are interested in cyber issues, the Air Force Academy has a really good program for that, and that might be the place for you. If long-term you're really interested in logistics and supply chain management, the Merchant Marine Academy does some really good things there. So regardless of where you're thinking is the place you'd like to go, when I was a high school senior, I think I wanted to be a veterinarian, which is to say things change. So make sure you understand the programs, think about where there's a fit, and as you go through and do your applications, even if you, in your heart, you say there's really only one of these I want to go to, consider applying to multiple academies, because when we get down, we have had points where we've said, we've got a fantastic person who's a great fit, but this was a really competitive year at her top choice, and we were able to get her a nomination to the Air Force Academy because she applied. We've had other cases where we said, this is a fantastic person. We wish this person had applied to another school because we had extra slots in these other schools, but they didn't apply, so we couldn't use it. So don't apply to a place that's not a good fit for you, but do consider applying to multiple academies. It doesn't in any way affect your selection at your top choice, but it does give us more degrees of freedom to try to make sure that we get as many folks from out here into a pretty neat opportunity. So I'll leave it at that, and let me now turn it over. I believe we have Congressman Foster and Congresswoman Underwood here virtually. I know they're both sorry they couldn't make it in person, but we're a little bit busy in DC right now. So let me turn over and we'll see if our IT works. If Congressman Foster can come on with some remarks to kick us off as well.
Well, hello. Am I audible and visible here?
Hang on, Bill. We need to get your volume up a little bit.
Okay. All right, well, I will continue making an appropriate amount of
Here we
audio
go.
signal. All right, are we
There
set?
we go.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. For those of you who might not know me, I'm Congressman Bill Foster. I'm a scientist and businessman, and I'm proud to represent the 11th Congressional District of Illinois in the U.S. House of Representatives, one of 3 members of Congress representing the Naperville area. And I'd really like to start by thanking Sean Caston and Lauren Underwood for hosting this event with me, and also thank the representatives who will be presenting on behalf of the service academies. Mark Amato of the United States Military Academy at West Point, Lieutenant Dan Schmerber of the United States Naval Academy, Second Lieutenant Elena R. Catello of the United States Air Force Academy, and Mike Vogt of the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and Dave Smith of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. I'd also like to thank the Naperville VFW for hosting us today. You know, one question that everyone has to ask themselves at some point in their lives is this: what portion of my life do I wish to spend in service to my fellow man and to my country? And having made that decision, how should I best do this? These are questions that all of us have to answer throughout our lives, but they are hard questions to wrestle with. For some of you, the answer might be in volunteering with local organizations to help those in need, or it may be serving your community or your nation in public office. For others, it may be through attending a service academy and a rewarding career in the armed services. By joining us today, you have shown that is a path of service that is something you're considering. Seeing a generation of young people eager to serve is always inspiring and shows us that the future of this country is in good hands. America's service academies provide the leadership skills and the education that you will need to succeed both during your military service and when you return to civilian life. Attending any one of these institutions will not only give you a world-class education, but also prepare you to face life's challenges with the courage shown daily by our men and women in uniform. And for the parents in attendance, I might point out the advantages of not accumulating a significant amount of college debt at the end of it. And so as you prepare for this exciting new chapter in your life, I hope that you will keep in mind just how important service is to building a strong nation and strong communities across this nation. And serving your country by wearing our nation's uniform is a noble way to give back. Thank you all. And I'm now handed over to Congresswoman Lauren Underwood.
Well, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today as you consider serving our country and applying to one of our 5 great U.S. service academies. I know that you're no stranger to adversity after the past year and a half of adapting and learning in new environments due to the pandemic. You've already learned more about adaptability and resilience than the vast majority of Americans who have previously applied for admission to a military academy. I hope what you've learned will serve you for the rest of your lives, especially as you explore a career in service to your country. You will no doubt experience more adversity in your lives, and as military academy graduate, you will be expected to lead the brave women and men of our armed forces through any situation. As a congressional nomination is a mark of trust that your community has in you, not only to navigate challenging circumstances yourself, but also to lead others through challenges as a commissioned officer in the United States military. By joining us today, you've taken the first step towards service. Already, you have set yourself apart from your peers through your leadership at your high school, your extracurriculars, your outstanding academic achievement. The congressional nomination is your next step. It's a rigorous process, but our office endeavors to make each step as clear as possible. The application and the list of required materials are available on my website, underwood.house.gov. Our deadline is November 30th at 5 p.m. And following that deadline, you'll be scheduled with an interview with my Academy Nominations Committee. My office, too, will nominate up to 10 individuals for each vacant slot at each academy. And once all interviews are complete, my office will notify you of the committee's nomination selection. So you met Frank, he's our MC today, and you can reach out to him if you have any questions. He is a veteran of the United States Army, and he would be delighted to answer whatever questions that you have. But just know this, have confidence in yourself. You have the potential to thrive at an academy. The academies will help you develop morally, academically, and physically, but making it through does require courage, leadership, and a lot of hard work. Thank you for coming today. I also just want to say, I do get emotionally invested in the nominees that we pick. And like one of my favorite things to do is to call you and tell you you've been admitted. So if you are in the 14th district and decide to apply for an academy, I look forward to meeting you and getting to know you. Best of luck through the process. Thank you again for your interest in serving our country. And I'm happy to turn it back to Frank.
Thank you so much to the elected officials who helped set this up today. So thank you, guys. Don't mind the technical difficulties we're having right now. It has been quite an experience. But so from here, we will now hear from our Service Academy representatives. We'll start with the Service Academy overview, which will lead into our United States Military Academy and West Point presentation. Please welcome the lead admissions representative for the United States Military Academy within the 11th Congressional District, Mark Amato.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being able to join us. Again, my name is Mark Amato. Just a brief intro on who I am and a little bit of my background. I'm a 1992 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, which was my commissioning source. I served as on active duty in the Army as an infantry officer from 92 to 97. I had a 3-year reserve commitment afterwards until 2000. One of those years, I served in the Illinois Army National Guard. So I could tell you a little bit maybe after these remarks, if you stay around for the end of the program. If you have any questions on any of that, I will talk of those things I just mentioned about West Point specifically, United States Military Academy, and how that fits within the context of our program today. But overall, the thing I want to bring more attention to is what I did before I followed that path. I went to school right down the road from here, one of our high schools. At the time, it was part of the 6th district, but it's now part of one of the other ones. But I say that so that you know that I was once upon a time in your shoes too, a high school kid that was applying from the west suburbs of Chicago and pursued a path in the Army, and that was my chosen service. And then after I completed my time of service, I've been a Naperville resident since 1997. That reserve time was all here, local, in this town. In 2000, I became a dad, so I could tell the parents that are here and present in the room and also online that I've been a parent for that amount of time. Now, my kids have not chosen to pursue this particular path, but I've worked since 2003 as an admissions representative for West Point. In a volunteer capacity, I've had a day job too, but in 2001, when our view of how to handle the world and our true awakening to adversity that we're going to constantly have upon us probably for the rest of the time, how that affects everybody, and how we deal with it is a very personal choice. And my choice to try to help people that are coming up in their lives is to help them make the decision of how to pursue their path of service. And basically that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. Being an Army guy, everything I say and do, and even my haircut still reflects something about the Army. So yeah, I can't get away from that bias. You'll see some slides with backdrops and colors and words that are going to say West Point and Army. So yes, I'm going to represent and talk about the Army to an extent, and that might be my leading example. But I'm going to try to talk most about West Point. I'll talk about that in terms of the application process and where West Point fits with the other service academies. And the Army, if you want to know more about the experience, I'll talk more about that later. And I have some other great colleagues going to be speaking with us today and talk about the other services. A lot of what they talk about as far as the academy atmosphere and process, it'll be similar. Army has its own way of doing things, but I don't want to take away from what they're going to be having to say, and everybody is going to have a little interest in that regard. What I'm going to talk about uniquely now is just the concept of what it means to be a commissioned officer. Whether as a parent or as a student, I'm sure unless you have retired from the military service, you're probably going to have some of those questions. It's kind of a lot of mystery in that realm. It's a different world. You see how things unfold on TV and the media. You have a lot of research. There's resources that are available to see how things are. And as our great members of Congress were saying, you got to consider what path you want to take and what flavor of that service you want to pursue. And it's not an easy decision to make. And if that's what you decide you want to do, if you decide that this is the type of environment that you're in, if you even just having the interest, whether you decide to do it or not, it's getting that information. So what I want to talk to you about are really what I would like to say the paths of leadership. So you're probably wondering what this slide is up here. This guy is he is the marker to the National Infantry Museum at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is the home of the infantry branch within the United States Army. The soldier represents the standing orders of a team leader. A team leader is the lowest echelon job you'll have in any of the services. They may have different names in the other services, but basically, when you're a soldier in charge of at least one other person, 1 to 3 other people, you're going to be a team leader. And what is it? We talk about when we talk about the statue and what it represents? It represents the standing orders of a team leader without giving any other information, regardless of what that mission is. The job of that team leader, that lowest echelon leader, is to follow me and do as I do. So this is known as the follow me statute, and its significance in front of a museum that is a hallmark tribute to the soldiers that came before and fought and bled and sometimes didn't make it home. You know, that it drives home the point of the importance and significance and the serious nature of this type of leadership. So no matter what path you're going to take, I encourage you to always come back and think about this image. Think about following me, doing as I do. No matter if you are the leader, if you are the one in charge, people are going to look to you for that type of action. And it's a lot of responsibility, and you got to still act under pressure. So no matter what path you choose, what service you choose, that aspect of leadership is significant. Even if you decided to pursue a path of leadership someplace else, understanding what this environment is and what it entails, if you decide to pursue it, fantastic. Hopefully we guide you into which path you may want to pursue for that decision. And if you decide you want to take it someplace else, there's no harm in that either. And it's respected, and it's valiant that you made the effort and you made the conscious decision of which path is going to be best for you. Next slide. Next. All right. This particular image that you're looking at here, I like to consider it a prism. And by that, I mean, you have aspects, you have some traits on here, or some words that reflect how we take gray matter from all the services, no matter which type of the military you pursue. We'll start with that one down there. You see that little word of military. It's a skill. Right now, unless you, for some reason, nobody in this room really, it's a student that's applying for the service academies. I'll go out on a limb. I don't see anybody in a uniform right now. You probably don't have enlisted service experience. So your military skills, you may not have too many. Maybe with scouting, you maybe have some exposure, some skills that are considered that translate in the military, but you have leadership skills. You have examples of things that you've done. So you have a little bit of gray matter in that area. Academics, your students, of course, you're pursuing studies. In the physical aspect, you're active. I see a lot of fit young men and women in this room, and that's outstanding. And you need that. That's a component of what, no matter how you take what you're going to do in your path of leadership, it's going to translate and be required for somebody that's going to require others to follow me and do as I do. So, but that element of character and those 3 things that I just said, I'll come back to those in a second, because those are all going to be metrics that are going to be quantified by all the service academies and the decision-making process, and not just the service academies, another path to leadership I'm going to mention in a minute. Those are quantifiable means of seeing where somebody is and where they've been and what kind of they're bringing to the table. Where can we take those attributes and take them to the next level? And that's something for you to think about. is which way do I want to take these raw materials and develop them? In which environment am I going to best develop them? Now that character, that last one on there, is significant because it applies. It's a factor. It's a multiplier for all those other areas. It's how you do all those things. When you're studying and you're a leader, are you somebody that leads by example? You're going to say, or are you somebody that's going to delegate tasks without delegating without retaining responsibility? Are you going to be somebody that's in the classroom that's going to be studying hard and trying to go from that B+ to that A- or the A- to the A+? Are you going to be somebody that takes a lead and tries to help people out, help tutor students that may need a little bit of extra help? Are you going to be somebody that's out there putting in your own 2-a-days to make yourself better, faster, stronger? All right. Are you that type of athlete? That's character. That's what it comes into play. Are you somebody that has ethics? I'm sure that you all are, but to get ethics when it comes to being pushed under stress, that's where character counts. And that's what character means to the military. And that's a very fundamental aspect that's going to apply to no matter what path of service you may choose to pursue, especially as a leader. All right. When we talk about leadership in the military, there's another category of officers that are called warrant officers. It's out of the scope of the conversation here, but we're thinking about pursuing paths to leadership within the service. You have commissioned service and non-commissioned service. All right. So what you see on the left, that's the rank of a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant first class, an E7. That means somebody that's been promoted 6 times above the entry level for an enlisted member of the armed services. All right. On the right, you see the rank for an Army second lieutenant. I believe it's also the Marine Corps second lieutenant. So that's the lowest echelon commissioned officer that you can come in at, an 01. All right. These 2 ranks in particular are very have a very interesting relationship because they complement each other. They actually share responsibility at a platoon level, which is the entry level for a commissioned officer. So what is commissioned, not commissioned? What is this commissioning? All right. Commissioning means you are sanctioned under the chain of command, the orders chain from the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces, which is the President of the United States, down to you're in the orders making process. You have legal authority down to a unit level. It's a bold responsibility, but that's what commissioned service is. You have that level of authority for distributing and executing and upholding orders. As a non-commissioned officer, you may have some of those responsibilities too, but your path of service to get to that level of responsibility, especially at an E7 rank as a non-commissioned officer, it takes time to be able to get that responsibility. The path, I'm going to talk a little bit about the paths of both of them and how those paths compare and contrast for a couple of reasons. For one, you just need to know about them because they may be paths. You may choose one path over the other. One may be more appealing to you. Whatever's driving you to be in this room today, that may be significant to how you decide to further pursue things. The other thing is, even if you are a commissioned officer, which is what the Surface Academies foster and which we develop, you're going to be working with these non-commissioned officers. These are going to be your leaders, your subordinate leaders that you cannot be successful without. So you need to understand the value that they bring to the table and how they're going to make you successful as a leader and how important it is for you to help make them successful. Next one, please. All right, so the non-commissioned officers. So you start out, I mentioned an E7. You're actually considered a non-commissioned officer technically at the rank of an E5. All right. So what you at that level, that means that you've reached a level of responsibility for individual soldier skills. When you come into the service and even during basic training, you're looked upon. Even though everybody's a private and learning how to be a soldier, you're learning leadership. Leadership is encouraged, and if somebody goes to a basic training unit, you're gonna see the trainees have a chain of command among the fellow among those trainees in basic training. Leadership's an important aspect. Somebody that can do the job well and show somebody else how to do it. How that somebody that's aspiring to that level of being a team leader, that's a significant thing. That's a significant skill that's built at an early age of soldiering. So you become an expert in your skills and helping others to build them. As a individual trainer, developing individual soldier skills, you'd progress to a level of experience and time. You will work on being able to work on collective skills. and you're leading soldiers in that regard. And then you come to a point where you're leading two teams. You're a team, not only a team leader, you might be a squad leader leading two teams. And it progresses up to a level where you're a platoon sergeant in this case. So understanding that the expertise and the competence of soldier skills and understanding how that translates into leading soldiers with that collective skill level, that's the path of a non-commissioned officer. They're truly experts in soldiering or in naval stuff or in anything of the other services, right? But they are your true leaders. If you were to enlist in the service and you want to aspire to leadership in that regard, of being an expert in that military aspect we talked about in that PRISM slide a couple slides ago, developing those skills and becoming a true leader by your example in that regard and being a master of those crafts of soldiering, of the military skills, that's a path to consider. And another thing to think about in this day and age is at the time you're going to be going to the service, you're going to be dealing with veterans that are, your non-commissioned officers are going to have combat experience. You're going to be learning about combat experience when you go to the academies. You'll have military exposure and training while you're there, but it can't beat that firsthand life experience that your non-commissioned officers are going to bring to the table. You as a second lieutenant may be, you'll be 22, 23 years old, about that age range when you go to your unit. You're going to be dealing with a non-commissioned officer, an E7 that's going to be 35 some years old. All right, with some other squad leaders that are somewhere between you and that platoon sergeant in age-wise. You need to have a level of maturity that you can handle not only these folks that are older than you have more experience, but also respect that experience and how to incorporate that into the knowledge you gain from school. You'll still be learning. So that brings us to our next piece, talking about commissioned officers. As a commissioned officer, you have an academic requirement to be a commissioned officer. You have to go through some schooling. You have to have at least an associate's degree to be a second lieutenant, to be an O1 service. And that's that little symbol, that OCS there, all the O and the C and the S superimposed on each other. For some of you may recognize that. Some of you that don't, that basically means officer candidate school. Every school has a component, every service has a component where you train folks that have a base level of education after they've completed basic training to have a concentrated period of just learning the leadership skills and that orders process to become a commissioned officer. That is a little out, that's out of the scope of what we're going to talk about for the rest of today. But it's important to know because you may have peers that have come to the officer path that have gone through that means. What we're going to focus on from here on out is going to be the other programs that will make somebody a commissioned officer. That's ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, and the service academies themselves. All right, no matter what path you're going to pursue, whether you want to pursue ROTC or you want to pursue a service academy path, you're going to be evaluated for how you go into the program and how you proceed successfully once you're in one of those programs. This may be a little familiar. I said I'd come back to this. The military aspect, which is your leadership potential, your academic ability, and then of course your overall fitness ability. All these things are considered that raw material that you have right now and how you're nurturing it. That's how, these are the aspects, or these are the main components that are going to be the decision process for your admission, for consideration of admission to an academy. Or if you decide right away, ROTC is a great option for you and you want to pursue an ROTC scholarship. These, regardless of those programs and how you'll be evaluated, these are the measures by which you will be evaluated. And you can see that big bubble of the academic. Yes, that is a huge chunk. And where you're, especially in these schools in this area that don't have a class rank, the standardized test scores, the ACT or SAT or both, whichever one you do better on is what those programs are going to consider in your super scoring. And that is going to be, I cannot stress enough how that is probably the centerpiece of that academic portion of that evaluation. All right, I could talk to you more about that later if you'd like. I think we skipped one. Thanks. All right. Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC. A lot of you may hear of this as being, well, if you don't go to the academy, you could go to ROTC if you don't get in. And I'm going to address that with, let's be realistic. And Congressman Caston, I believe it was that had mentioned it before. You know, it's a competitive process, guys. You, even if you have that nomination and, you know, there's a good odds that a lot of you folks will get a nomination. Not everybody will. These are popular programs, but getting the nomination is one thing, getting into the academy may be another. But if you're in this room, if you have the idea of the path of service and you just say, being a commissioned officer, I'm a great student, I have leadership ability, I don't know why the academy is not going to take me. And sometimes I don't know why the academy wouldn't take you either, but it might be out of your hands. And yeah, you could apply for the academies multiple years. If you don't get in your first year, it happens. And it's a great thing to consider, but ROTC is another thing to consider too. And I don't consider it a plan B. I consider it an alternate plan A, because you're going to an active school. You could go to just about any place in the country, to any great credible school in the country that has an ROTC program with an ROTC scholarship with the same financial benefit. Basically, you're going to have going through one of the service academies, and you're going to be what, at the end of it, a second lieutenant or an O1 in one of your active services. Now, I don't believe the Coast Guard at three. I know that at least 4 of the armed services, so 3 of the academies have an ROTC option. There's similar options. You talk to the Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine is a beautiful example. And there are a lot of great things to talk about. I won't steal any thunder there. And I probably sound ignorant if I try to talk about them in any detail, but there's a lot of things to consider. There's other paths to consider, especially going to any school in the country, pursuing academic majors, maybe beyond the scope of the harder core engineering courses you're going to take at some of the other schools, and still achieve that job of being a commissioned officer, one of the armed services. All right, take the academy one now. All right, so I can talk to you more about ROTC later on if you want. I'm sure the other service reps can talk about that as well. Now I'm going to talk about the academies in themselves. Consider the academy an immersion program. If you want to learn foreign language, I don't know anything about, I'll pick any language I don't know, which is a lot of them. Throw me in the middle of that country and without giving me a book, I'm going to be immersed. I'm going to learn that language if I want to survive. All right. And that's what it is when you go into a service academy. You're getting immersed in the culture. You are a member of the armed services when you're going to one of the service academies. Army, for example, you're as a cadet in the United States Military Academy, you actually have a standing of rank. You're within the chain of command of within the armed forces. It doesn't count a lot, and I wouldn't be bragging about it. But you have it, and you're there. You're in uniform. I mean, it's maybe not 24/7, but especially your first year, their uniform requirements, unless it's changed drastically, and I'm just that old and crusty and hardcore, and I wore my uniform all the time. You're in the service. Everything you do, you eat, sleep, and breathe literally in the service. All right. And that's part of the reason why it's such a competitive program, because there's only so much room to have this full-time immersion program. That's why you have this level of competition to get into the services. But I'll take the next one too. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the culture of the service academies as I move to wrap things up here. I'm going to quickly go through a couple of slides. I'll let you just kind of see them. I'll let the pictures paint 1,000 words for you. You have you have a little bit of sleepy time built in after midnight. You have to put your lights out, and you're going to be exhausted. You're going to try to be going to bed sooner than that, but you can't because of all the other requirements we have, whether it's your academics, or whether it's your homework, whether it's your intramurals or your intercollegiate athletics. You're going to be, you have a first formation. You see, you're getting up, before the crack of dawn, and you got a lot. You're going to have a busy full day while you're at one of the service academies. Next one, please. Your academic load is not just within the day, but within 4 years. I mean, as you see more of that yellow color there, you're going to have more room for electives, which is not too different from other colleges. But you're not going to be having a slack off semester. You're going to be busy. You're going to be filling those time slots with academics. You're going to be filling your mind with not just academic time, but also intensity. That first year you have at any of the academies is going to be chock full of core courses that somebody that ends up being a calculus math major and wizard and space scientist, and actually I have a classmate that is one of those types of people, actually got several. That same person is going to take the same level of math that you have, and you're barely struggling to figure out what calculus even it means. So but you're going to be taking that course. And part of that, that does build one of the, bring up a point about the culture of the academies is teamwork. You cooperate to graduate. Can't stress that enough. And that's one of the aspects of intensity. You get overwhelmed and realize you have to figure out, adapt your brain, how to do things while juggling a lot, but you're also going to be working with other classmates, your peers, to figure out how to cooperate and do it together and to achieve more as a unit, which of course is going to foster to your ability to do so when you are in charge of a unit someday. Sports, every cadet's an athlete, every academy, even if you're not an intercollegiate athlete, doesn't mean you just get on and sit on the bench and watch them play, although there are opportunities to do that. You're going to be out there playing too as an intramural athlete. You're going to have gym class. You're going to have several athletic requirements you're going to have that you'll have to pass, and fitness tests as well. So while you're working on trying to get by in life and pass all your courses, you're also going to have to keep yourself in shape too. Great stress reliever, but it's also a great team building exercise. So it's one of those things you're going to have to do. And whether you want to do it or not, and you may be doing a sport that you don't I play team handball. One of my years as an intramural athlete. And I don't even remember what it was, but I did it and I had a good time. So you got to wrap your mind around, keep your mind around being open and being active. And that you absolutely will be at the Service Academy. Next one, please. All right, investment. Now you see the soldiers up here in these pictures, kind of crusty looking, kind of like, whoa, they don't look like cadets. Yeah, they're 4-year cadets. You get worn out after that 4th year. No, these are the faculty. That's the other thing to consider about when you're considering a service academy. Our ROTC versus the academies, that's one thing it's hard for the ROTC to replicate, is the amount of experience you're going to have of the instructors, your faculty. Folks come back, they compete for jobs to come to the service academies to teach you. In your academic areas, especially, they're all going to have at least a master's degree and be fully competent in teaching you those core courses. And you'll have professors, you have the crustiest of the crusty colonels coming back, and they'll be teaching permanent professors as doctorates and your levels of study towards your majors. But this is something that keep in mind too. You have these folks there that are not just there because they're teaching at their alma mater, but they're giving back in a way that no other faculty member could give back to any other institution in the world other than the service academies. Next, please. All right, so let's I'm not going to dance. Maybe later. They're in the Q&A. Okay. I'll talk. I already talked about the academic program in a little bit as far as the intensity goes. 2 things I'll bring out here is the amount of. There are some civilian professors that also come to the service academies that help round out the education that you receive, but the accessibility of those professors is kind of the continuation to that investment of folks coming back. They make themselves available. The professors at the service academies. They will give you their phone number, their email address, and day 1 of class. And that day in your classroom, you're going to have a very small class size. Basically, that's the thing about being in a small competitive environment. It is a small environment. So your ability to learn is directly from the professors. You don't have teaching assistants at the academy is immense. So you're going to have that direct one-on-one dialogue with your instructors. And the end product of the academics is immeasurable that you get out of the quality of the service academies in terms of folks that are quantifiable scholars that go on to other leadership programs, but also just the level of folks that are there to help tutor you, and you have accessibility among that brain power among your classmates. All right, getting toward the end here, and we'll tell you that your reasons for coming to the academy. This is, I don't remember which class this is, class of 2015. So yeah, it's getting a little outdated, but I could tell you that the theming and the percentages and will be the same almost every year from way back when I came through the academy's program. This is reasons to become a cadet, reasons to become why go to a service academy. This is kind of a poll, and you can see the big numbers up at the top versus small numbers near the bottom. So the folks that have come just because they want to be an intercollegiate athlete. Now, I know, especially for Army, everybody wants to play for the Army team, but there's more than that distinct. That glory factor is not really why you should come to the academies. Family instances, just because You know, you make grandma proud by going to the service academy. You know, I'm sure that you will, but that's not your reason for going. You're going there just for the financial benefit. You know, some people may say that, all right, right? But very few people that graduate will say that. Your attrition rate going through the academies, getting in is one thing, getting through it is another thing. All right. Remember that cooperate and graduate, that's very important, but it does come down to that individual level of responsibility. It is intense. You have to be aware that while you come home on a break at Christmas time, you're talking to your classmates that are telling you about partying like you've never understood could be communicated, especially from some of the people you used to hang out with in high school. I got a high school classmate in the audience today, so I was seeing what he was how he'd react to that. But it's going to be a different experience, and you got to be ready to take that to jump into that different environment. All right, there's steps to admission. You know, I think a lot of folks that are here today are more on that near the junior side, kind of starting out the first steps, considering what path they want to take. Once you get in the decide this is the path you want to take, each website for each service academy is going to have some very specific steps. I could talk you through some of this more in detail later on if you want for the Army perspective, but there's a graduated process for pursuing how you're going to pursue that application and getting to the top of that. And I said, once you get there too, you know, that progression and that forward thinking, that forward planning concept, that doesn't stop. To get through it is another thing too. Getting into the academy is one thing, getting through it is another. I'll take the last two, actually, this one here. All right, so a graduation ceremony at a service academy is an incredible day. It is definitely still one of the most distinct and happiest days of my life. I couldn't believe that they let me graduate. So it was, I could tell you all kinds of glory day stories, but even getting up to graduation on time. But I got there, and I did throw my hat in the air. And the last cap that you throw in the air, the cap you throw in the air is your last uniform hat you're going to wear as a cadet, because from that point on, it's not just a graduation ceremony, it's also your commissioning ceremony. That's where you're taking the oath of service to be a commissioned officer. You're receiving that commission. Sometimes the president, him or herself, will come and be your speaker, commencement speaker at your graduation. President Bush, the first, he actually gave the diploma. I witnessed him give the diploma to every member of the class of '91. And it was usually they do the top 50 and have a seat and delegate their responsibility out. But that's just an awesome thing to behold in itself. And it should be happy, should be celebrated, and you're part of that chain. But the thing you got to ultimately keep in mind is the next headgear that you will wear will be that of a commissioned officer in the United States Armed Forces. You'll be somebody that's leading people in various environments, anywhere in the world. You'll be an advisor, you'll be a coach, you'll be there to inspire, you'll be there to ultimately to lead by example. So keep this in mind. There's a long road ahead. You have multiple roads ahead that can get you to the similar path. But at the end of the day, no matter what path you choose, if you decide the path of commissioned service, particularly going through the intensity of the service academies, you're going to be a leader that will be very well trained, technically and tactically proficient, and you'll have a lot of responsibility behind you. And I can say this much, that you're even here today is inspiring, and to be at that level of responsibility and inspiration that you'll have, that's it. It says a lot about you guys to even be considering this path. And those that are parents that may be nervous about their children pursuing these paths, I could certainly understand that. But I do thank you that you even have children of our community that are considering this path of service, because ultimately the example that they're following is the one that you have set and established. So I appreciate you all for considering this. Appreciate parents for being here and your attention. Happy to talk to you more about the Army, West Point, service academies in general later on too. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Amato. And like everyone to know, please hold your questions. We will have a Q&A session at the very end after everyone has given their presentations. But with that, So next up, we will learn about the United States Naval Academy. Please welcome the U.S. Naval Academy, Illinois Field Admissions Counselor, Lieutenant Dan Schmerber.
All right, just first want to say thank you to everybody for being here and taking time out of your busy schedule to spend time here with us. You're already taking a great step forward in the process, the journey to attending a service academy. So congratulations to you on that. Congratulations to my friend who's wearing the Navy shirt in the audience. So good apparel choice today. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of why maybe the Naval Academy is a little bit different or what sets us apart. At the end of the day, we have the general process, the daily schedule, the academics, kind of how it's all set up is the same for all the service academies, but each one has a little unique flavor. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Clackey, who's here with us today. He's a local Blue and Gold officer, and so I'll let him give a quick introduction.
Hi, everybody. Jack Blackey. I'm the gold officer for this area. 1993 grad of the Naval Academy, so I was at the Navy around the same time as Mr. Amato. Just want to increase the chance to have a nice lunch head of hair for years in the Navy. My high schools are Naperville North, Uvanti, Matia, and East Aurora. But for those schools, I'm seeing afterwards, but I'm a blue and gold officer. If you're not in one of those schools, go see your counselor. They should know who your blue gold officer is. Our job is twofold. One is to counsel you and help you through the application process. And then number two, we work as an extension of the admissions office to conduct interviews in connection with your application. So actually are probably the one person, unless you're an athlete and you're talking to coaches, probably the one human contact that we're going to have
Thanks. And finally, big thank you to Representatives Caston, Foster, and Underwood for hosting this event today. I think they're all gone, so I can safely say an even bigger thank you to Frank, Michelle, and all of the other staff members who did all the heavy lifting for us today to set this up for you guys and make it easy for us. All we had to do is show up as presenters. That being said, we're going to get started with a quick video. I won't dance either.
Open up the champagne. It's my house. Come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Sometimes you gotta stay in, and you know where I live. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay in. Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house, play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my house. Home run, slam dunk, touchdown pass. Mi casa es tu casa, so it ain't no holding back. Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Cheers to this. Welcome to my house, play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my house. It's my house.
All right, well, we're getting the presentation pulled up here. I think we're a little bit behind, so I'm going to try and get through my slides pretty quickly. So hopefully I don't talk too fast, but I love that video because it gives a good overview. What I think one of the best assets of the Naval Academy is our location right in downtown Annapolis, right on the water. So I always like to show that whenever I can. You can go to the next slide right away. So a little bit background on me. I grew up locally. I grew up actually in Elgin, Illinois. I went to Elgin High School. I was actually nominated by Representative Foster, and I was a political science major while I was at the Naval Academy, a member of the sprint football team, and graduated in 2013. I service selected naval aviation upon graduation, went down to flight school for about 2 years, learned how to fly helicopters, and I flew the MH-53 helicopter for about 4 years before starting this job here as a field admissions counselor. So I am local again, I live in the area, and I'm your counselor for the admissions process. So as we already mentioned, saw from the video, the yard itself is great. You're just steps from the gate and you're in downtown Annapolis. The yard itself is small and compact, so a little bit over 300 acres. So about a 10-minute walk anywhere on the campus, and that includes everything that you would need. So academic buildings, Bancroft Hall where you live, all the athletic facilities, as well as the other necessities. So laundry services, barbershop, your midshipman store, everything you need is right there at your fingertips. So here's some of our recent stats. So we were recently ranked the #1 public college in the United States, primarily known as a STEM school. So you see the high rankings there for our engineering programs, but it's not all engineering. I can attest to that as a political science major. We still get good rankings on the liberal arts side of the house as well. So bottom line, regardless, any of the service academies, especially the Naval Academy, you're going to get a phenomenal education that's really going to set you up for the rest of your life. So our brigade of midshipmen, so we're a little bit different from the other service academies. We call our students midshipmen. So we're about 4,500 total students, split about 70-30 between men and women. And as Representative Caston mentioned, the unique thing about the service academies, even though they're smaller schools, you're going to get students from every, not only state, but every congressional district. We also have some foreign exchange students as well. So even though we're a smaller school, you're getting that good geographically and culturally diverse brigade of midshipmen. You are literally going to meet students from every corner of the country and even all over the world. We have 26 different majors available, as I mentioned, primarily STEM focused. So the first two groups are our engineering and weapons. So pretty much any engineering you can think of, we probably have it at the Naval Academy. We also have those STEM majors as well. And then our humanities side of the house, English, history, political science, Chinese, Arabic, and then our most recent addition, foreign area studies. In terms of the engineering majors, our most recent addition there was our cyber operations. So 2 years ago, we actually became the first college or university in the United States to have a fully accredited standalone cyber operations major. Our most recent academic building opened last fall. It's our state-of-the-art cyber operations center. So if you're interested in getting into that cyber world, we're right on the cutting edge there at the Naval Academy. I'll go through this next slide quickly if it wants to load. This is our core curriculum. So very much similar to the Air Force Academy and what you saw from the West Point presentation. It's thinking about coming in there, but the boxes in the red there, those will be your STEM core. So we're a little bit different. You'll have a few more required STEM courses at the Naval Academy, but the rest of that process is the same. You have a decent amount of required core curriculum. And then as you get towards your junior and senior years, you'll be able to fill in the different courses there with your course electives for whatever your selected major is. All right, varsity sports, again, similar to West Point, we do have 33 different varsity sports. So second only, I think, to Stanford and Ohio State. So if you do want to compete at that next level, that D1 level, you can do that at the Naval Academy. And then very similarly, we also have club sports and what most of our midshipmen will do, intramurals. On top of that, we have a lot of extracurriculars. So we expect that, we're going to get some good, well-rounded candidates such as yourself, who are probably involved outside of the school. We want you to still be able to do that at the Naval Academy. So that's very important to us. We have over 122 different clubs and extracurriculars. So if you do find some time in that busy schedule, which most of our midshipmen do, there is still the opportunity to pursue those other passions and interests you have. So our summer training is set up. You're going to get your academics done during the year. And then mom and dad, good news, your kids aren't going to come home and sit on your couch for 3 months straight. They will have the opportunity for about a month there. We do have a vacation block. So you can go home, see family and friends, maybe do an internship or summer school, whatever you'd like. And then the rest of the summer is devoted to your development. So one area there is going to be your military development. That's what we call our fleet crews, because we love giving nautical terms, everything at the Naval Academy. So you're going to kind of start off with that basic indoctrination. It's a building block approach. We kind of, break you down, get you on that base level to then build you back up. So that starts off with that plebe summer. And then from there, you'll get a good experience and all the different aspects of the Navy. So you'll get to shadow some of our enlisted sailors, get a good healthy appreciation for all the hard work that they do. You'll get a career exposure block where you'll spend a week on a surface ship, a week on a submarine, a week with the Marine Corps, and then a week flying with naval aviation. And then finally, this culminates with hopefully you've decided in your kind of intended career path, and then you'll shadow an officer that final summer in that intended career path. For me, I was interested in naval aviation, so I got sent to one of our Navy squadrons, got to shadow their pilots, actually got to fly with them on some of their training missions. The final block here during the summer is your leadership development. So this is where you take that academic lesson, those academic lessons that you've learned during the year, and you put those into practical use. Lots of different options here. I helped run that plebe summer for our incoming freshmen one summer. I did a sailing cruise. I don't even think been on a sailboat before, but a group of midshipmen and a sailing instructor. We took a sailboat all the way up to Newport, Rhode Island and back. So lots of good lessons we learned on that trip. And then my culminating experience was a program called NOLS, so the National Outdoor Leadership School. That was a leadership course that was taught while we were backpacking on the glacier in Alaska. So bottom line, you're going to be busy, but you're going to get a lot of good, rewarding experiences during those summer trainings. We also have the opportunity for international travel while you're at the Naval Academy. So similar to other colleges and universities, if you want to spend an entire semester abroad somewhere studying, you can do that. We also have shorter duration trips. So maybe on a spring break trip or a summer trip, if you want to go to Europe, you just sign up for whatever program is available. As you can see from here, during the summer and those different break periods, we offer a lot of different trips all over the world. So if you are interested in seeing the world, yeah, you can do that on your summer vacation, but you can also do that, while during the academic year while you're learning at the Naval Academy. All right, I'm going to skip this slide because we can talk about that later, maybe in the question and answer session. And we already got a good interview or an introduction with our blue and gold officer representative today. We do have the prep school option. So I like to cover this because a lot of students and parents don't know this option exists. So the Naval Academy Prep School is located in Newport, Rhode Island. It's basically another avenue to come to the Naval Academy. So you would still apply to the Naval Academy like normal, and our admissions board would identify candidates that they think might be a good fit for the Naval Academy Prep School. Basically, at the end of the day, it's a little bit of extra academic preparation before coming to the Naval Academy. So you'll go there for a year, basically kind of do the entire first year of academics that you would at the Naval Academy. And then upon your successful graduation from Naval Academy Prep School, you then come that following year to the Naval Academy. No separate application required, actually no nomination required for the prep school. So if you do happen to maybe not get that nomination this year, maybe you need a little bit extra academic prep, this is another way that you could still potentially come to the Naval Academy. All right, the ultimate goal here is you're going to graduate and serve that 5-year commitment as an officer, and you'll be commissioned as an officer into either the Navy or the Marine Corps. And I'll talk a little bit about the different areas that you can go into, because I think it's one of the important things that sets the Naval Academy apart from some of the other service academies. So the first one is what everybody typically thinks about when they think of the Navy, surface warfare. So those big gray ships, right? Cruisers, destroyers, all the way up to those massive aircraft carriers. You'll be a professional officer learning your duties on that ship. You'll also be a leader leading divisions of enlisted sailors as well. The next area we have is the submarine warfare community. So similar to the surface fleet, but all their boats sink. You also go to nuclear power school. They're all nuclear, powered by nuclear reactors. So you learn a bit about nuclear energy. And then again, you show up as a submarine officer on your ship. The third community, the one that's near and dear to my heart, aviation. So a couple of different routes here. You have Navy pilots and naval flight officers, different options in terms of what you can fly, whether it's aircraft or helicopters. There is a little bit longer of a service commitment with aviation. It ends up being about 9 to 10 years total. And that's due to that a pretty long training requirement for flight school, anywhere from 2 to 3 years. So that's the only difference there. And then special warfare. So you can commission directly into the special warfare communities. So if you're interested in going SEALs or EOD, the explosive ordnance disposal teams, you have to meet a few more physical requirements, but still an option to commission directly into those communities as well. And then the final main community that we have is the Marine Corps. Because the Marine Corps falls under the Department of the Navy, you can commission as a Marine Corps officer, either Marine Corps ground, similar to a platoon commander, or Marine Corps aviation, flying some of the aircraft that the Marine Corps has. This slide, next slide might be a little bit harder to see on the screen here, but about 95% of our graduates will go that what we call unrestricted line route into one of those 5 communities. We do also have some students that go different restricted line or kind of support communities every year as well. So only a handful for each community each year. but things like the medical course, if you want to go to med school, cyber community, intelligence community, those are still options. Again, not quite as many. You can see from some of those numbers there, anywhere from 3 to 4 to maybe 20. So the bulk, majority are going to commission into those unrestricted line communities. But big takeaway here, there are lots of options in the Navy. All right, couple quick slides here to finish up. We have our summer programs. So the first one I want to mention is our summer STEM program, and that is for rising 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. 1-week programs in June, specific to the actual grade. So a little less Navy and Naval Academy focused, a little more STEM focused, and you can go to the next one. Yep. And those applications open up in January typically. The other program we have is called the Naval Academy Summer Seminar. So that is for only our rising seniors. So that summer between your junior and senior year. This actually gets you onto the yard, our campus. You get to live life as a midshipman for a week, really kind of figure out if that is the route that you would want to go. I did participate in summer seminar when I was at the Naval Academy, or before I went to the Naval Academy, and that really helped, kind of solidify my decision. So I really highly recommend that program for any of the juniors out there in the audience. All right, this is one of my final slides here. So aside from the obvious reason that the Naval Academy holds the all-time lead in the Army versus Navy football series, 3 other top reasons to consider going Navy. We have an extremely high graduation rate. All the service academies do. So this is really ubiquitous to all the service academies. We are not schools of attrition. If you come to the service academies, we want to see you graduate. We're gonna, help you along the way. Yes, it's tough, rigorous, curriculum, lots on your plate, but we're gonna help see you succeed and get out that door. On top of that, you have great career options at the Navy. So that was one of the reasons why I chose the Naval Academy. I had no military background in my family, no history there. So I looked at the Naval Academy. I said, yes, I have the Navy options, but I also have, similar options to the Air Force in terms of Naval and Marine Corps aviation. Please don't kick me off stage. I have similar options to the Army in terms of the Marine Corps. So I really looked at the Naval Academy as giving me a lot of options and as a place where I could kind of figure it out as I went along. And then finally, as you saw from that video, as I talked about, I think the location is great. The campus itself is beautiful. It's a nice, convenient campus located right in the heart of downtown Annapolis. Also about 30 miles to Baltimore and Washington, D.C. So plenty to do in those cities and easy to get back and forth between home as well with all the airport options you have there. The final slide I have here should be my contact information page. So I would say screenshot it, but it might be hard to see. So we'll be at the tables afterwards. Thanks for your time today. Look forward to any questions after this, and I'll turn it over for the next presenter.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Lieutenant. So this time we are going to take a few minutes, take a break. Right now I have 10:05 on my watch. Let's take 3 minutes. So if you need to use the restroom, if you need to go stretch, go outside, breathe a little bit, maybe get outside, take off your mask. We'll do that, and then we're going to follow up with the United States Air Force Academy presentation. Thanks, everyone. What's that?
Going really well.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. This has been an interesting time doing this. I am going to steal Michelle. Sorry. Not whatever. 65. Okay. Okay, everybody, if you want to start getting your seats again, we'll get started here in just a minute. Okay, if everyone wants to take their seats, please. Okay, so we're going to get started with our next presentation here. So next we have a representative from the United States Air Force Academy to give her presentation. Please welcome Second Lieutenant Elena Catala.
Morning, everyone. I hope that break was very well-deserved and everything. I got to talk to some kids at my table, which was great. So yeah, I'm Second Lieutenant Elena Catala, and I'm going to give you guys more of a in-depth look in my cadet life. I just graduated this past May 2021. So I'm very new to being an officer and this job and everything. I'm doing this job for the next year, and then afterwards, I am going to be going into intelligence tech school. I don't really know what that entails, but I'm super excited. So yeah, cool. Air Force Academy, awesome. So this is our mission statement. It's to educate, train, and inspire men and women to become officers of character, motivated to lead the United States Air and Space Forces in service to our nation. So pretty much just to develop people, leaders of character, people who are fit to serve, stuff like that. Next slide, please. So here's our ranking. Public college number 3. That is awesome. I don't want to talk about who number 1 and 2 are, but let's just say that we did beat Navy at football last weekend. So that was great. Go Falcons. Yes. So we are very STEM focused. We have a lot of majors and minors. I was not STEM. I was political science, so opposite end of the spectrum. But I absolutely loved it. My teachers were amazing. My department was so helpful. Anything that I needed, they were right there with me. My teachers were great. Every one of my teachers had people knowledgeable and super informative and helpful. So here are all of our majors and some of our minors. So you can range from anything from astronautical engineering to computer science to English to philosophy to meteorology and stuff like that, everything in between that you can think of. And I was a French minor, so we have a bunch of different languages, 8 in total. Next slide, please. So Air Force athletics. Every cadet's an athlete. Same thing with West Point, same thing with the Naval Academy. We have Division I sports like basketball, football, baseball, stuff like that, volleyball. We have 110 over club sports. I did marathon and CrossFit my junior and senior year, 2 separate. I didn't do them together because that would have been awful. But a wide range of sports. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. And then I also did some intramurals, and we have intramurals like volleyball and flag football and stuff like that. Pretty fun stuff. Next slide, please. The academy experience, the overall experience. It's kind of summed up in those pictures, but yet not at all. It doesn't even dip your toe in the water to everything that the academy has to offer to you. With my French minor, I did go to Senegal and Africa for a month, living with a host family, speaking the language, being fully immersed in the culture, and eating a bunch of their foods that were really good. And I got to hang out with some of my other cadet counterparts, which was really wonderful. So if you want to see any pictures of Senegalese beaches, let me know. I got a lot. So ring dance, everyone gets rings. There's summer of senior year. I don't have mine. I realized it when I got in the car, like, oh, dang it, that's sad. I love it. It's beautiful. But, and then you can fly out of or jump out of planes, which for fun, I think that's kind of crazy, but I mean, to each their own. And then the academy is located in Colorado Springs. It's a beautiful area, about 20 minutes, or excuse me, An hour away from Denver, 20 minutes north of downtown Colorado Springs, and about 2 hours away from any sort of hiking mountains that you like. I climbed a 14,000-foot mountain and I thought I was going to fall off the edge, so I said never again. So I just stuck to flat hikes, which is kind of impossible in Colorado, but you can find some. Next slide, please. So like I said, a bunch of different immersion programs, language, you can go on and do stuff like ops research, Air Force ops research. I did summer of my junior year, and I went to Edwards Air Force Base and got to spend a weekend in LA, in California, forced to go to the beach and eat some really awesome food. So yeah, there was that. And then you can do Service Academy Exchange, ROTC Exchange. You can do other foreign academy exchanges, which a lot of my friends did and are doing, and they're in every part of the world that you can imagine. It's really wonderful. Next slide, please. Awesome. So it would not be the Air Force Academy without airplanes and anything air power. So I did 3 out of the 4 things pictured there, and I did not jump out of planes. So I flew propelled aircraft, which was a class that I was opted to take, and I'm not going to be a pilot. So it was the best opportunity and experience that I could have imagined. Just flying over the Rocky Mountains and seeing the mountains from an aerial view is something unparalleled to everything that I've ever done. And then I also flew gliders, which was awesome. And you have the opportunity to join the glider soaring instructor pilot program if you do that during the summer. And then if you have your private pilot's license, then you can also join the propelled aircraft program or stuff like that and just fly in competitions. And then you can also fly drones, which I flew drones, and it was fine. I mean, not that it wasn't, something that we needed, but yeah, I definitely liked flying planes more. Next slide, please. Okay, this is Garden of the Gods. You can see Pikes Peak in the background, which is the 14,000-foot mountain in our backyard pretty much. And it, like I said, it's a beautiful area. I absolutely miss waking up and seeing mountains out of my dorm room window. And that's something that you really can't get anywhere else in the country unless you go to the academy. Next slide, please. So we have 35 different career fields. About 50% go on to be a pilot. And I like to tell this story because the very last kid in my graduating class, number 1025, is a pilot. He's going through pilot training right now. This kid was on every sort of probation that you could possibly imagine. Super awesome dude. I know him personally, and he got into a lot of trouble because he's kind of a wild child. But he is a pilot, which is pretty cool. And then 10% Space Force, so kind of like the Naval Academy graduating Marines, we graduate Space Force. So if Space Force is something that you want to do while you're at the academy, totally possible, definitely go for it. And then 10% graduate school. I know kids who are at Harvard right now, who are at Stanford. I know a dude who's in Hawaii right now learning how to surf on the Air Force's dollar. So it's really awesome. And then I know another girl who's in the dental program right now in University of Nebraska. So yes, medical is totally possible. Might be a little more challenging, but it's really worth it if that's something that you're striving to go for. So how to get started, academyadmissions.com. Memorize that. That's pretty much where you're going to go to fill out your pre-candidate questionnaire. Most of you, I think, are pretty much already through your application. So, but if you are not, you can apply for the Summer Seminar Program and then the Future Falcon Program. And that is a STEM related program that you can go to the academy and they let you know if there are any events going on in your area. So next slide, please. So the academy application is very similar to the other academies. You have to do CFA, you have to do DODMERB, you have to do a bunch of other stuff like that, write essays, whatnot. Next slide, please. So average high school GPA is about a 3.85. Don't worry if you're a little bit under, and awesome if you're a little bit over. But yeah, that's about the average. And then average ACT baseline is about a 26. So if you're not at a 26, make sure to try to get a little bit higher if you can. I took mine 4 times, so yes. And then number 1 in their class was about 8%. So you do not have to be valedictorian of your class in order to get in. Next slide, please. physically competitive and medically qualified. You will take a CFA. It's the same exact standards for the other two big academies. So if you do really well on one of them, you can just send in your scores to Academy Admissions and they will accept them. So that's pretty nice. And then of course, DODMERB, you have to go through and make sure that you are physically fit and you're able to fly aircraft if the Air Force will allow it. Next slide, please. Nominations. That is probably the main reason that a lot of us are here right now. We have nominations. I remember going through the nomination packets and I'm like, oh, this is a lot. But yeah, it's not as bad when you get to the interview, I promise. So you can apply to your 2 US senators, your representative, and the vice president. So make sure that you're applying for all 4. When I was applying, they wouldn't allow the vice president. So it's really nice to be able to have one more nominating source because all you need is one nomination to get into an academy. That's all. So make sure you put all your eggs into a bunch of different baskets, not just one. So next slide, please. So these numbers might seem intimidating. I know everyone's like, oh, it's, 1 out of 11 chance to get in, or, pretty small chance it's about the same level as Harvard. Yeah, if you look at the numbers and you look at the top and the bottom, that's true. But if you look at the top, the applicants, those are the kids that put their name down on the list and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm interested, let's try and give this a shot. And then they go through their pre-candidate questionnaire and they look at it and they're like, this is a lot of work. I don't really think I want to do this. I might want to try for, RTC or just go to a different college, stuff like that. And then they weed those out. Candidate pool, about 9,215. Those are the kids that start their candidate kit and are working through it. And then they're like, it's kind of a lot of work, or no, I'm not really qualified. My ACT scores are too low, or I'm not medically qualified because I have asthma and I know that. So I'm just going to withdraw. And then that gets to the qualified candidates, the kids who are like, okay, I made it through my congressional nominations. I'm just waiting for an appointment. I'm waiting for my nomination. And they don't get a nomination or it's too competitive. And then you get down to 1,145. So those are the numbers of the kids that are in the class of 2024. So if you think about it, honestly, it's about a 1 in 4 chance. So keep your hopes up. It's definitely possible. I didn't get in until mid-May. And that's super late. I was already buying stuff from my dorm at another college. And when I got the acceptance letter, I'm like, oh my word, wait, I got in. And my mom's like, you got in. And I was in shock. I'm like, oh my word, I didn't, what? Is this real? Is this a prank? And no, I got in. So I closed on my application to the other college and I made the best decision of my life by going to the academy. So awesome. I think that is my last slide. So if you have any questions, please come up to the table. I try to make this short and sweet. I can tell you more about my cadet experience if you have any more questions. But thank you again for coming out. Greatly appreciate it. And best of luck to everyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Second Lieutenant, for your presentation. Now, if you could please bring your attention back to this main screen, a representative from the United States Merchant Marine Academy will give his presentation. Please welcome US MMA alumnus and current director of PwC, Mike Vogt.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for everyone in taking some time today to take a look at the different service academies. I'm a 92 grad of US Merchant Marine Academy. So we are going to provide a little bit of different outlook as opposed to the other 4 academies. We are 20 miles east of Manhattan. All in, we are 1,000 men and women, midshipmen. So quite a bit smaller than the other academies. No cost for tuition, room and board. We do have there is a slight annual fee. I'll actually talk about how to offset some of that during our C year. Student to faculty ratio is 13 to 1. Average class size is 24. One of the things that primarily makes us different is while we definitely have hands-on learning all 4 years, we actually have 3 trimesters that are not in the classroom at Kings Point. They are actually out in the world. And for my C year, my first year I went to Spain, Italy, Greece, Israel, Egypt, and Jordan. My second C year, I went to Guam, Taiwan, Japan and Korea. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So what the heck is a merchant mariner, right? The term merchant marine, it's like, oh, it must be a Marine. Yeah, not really. These are all the ships that you see around the world, carry about 99% of the world's cargo, including during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Most of that cargo in terms of all the military equipment, all the ammunition goes on ships. And those are really not naval ships. They are merchant ships. We provide transportation, passengers, cargoes, anything from container ships, tankers. One of the big ships that a couple of ships that I was on actually were big ro-ros or big car carriers. So the difference between, sort of the merchant marine and some of the other, actually all the other service academies is in normal day-to-day life, we're civilians, we are working on the private industry ships. However, in terms of war, we actually service that fourth arm of defense. This kind of came about during World War II, when there were recognized need to do convoy ops as the Germans and Japanese tried to break our supply chain, or basically supply chain. So I know that one of the things that we primarily provide is that supply chain, both in terms of normal day-to-day life, and then obviously during times of war as well. So as per the other academies, right, we actually have a Bachelor of Science degree, a commission in the Armed Forces, and then the thing that's a bit different is a Merchant Marine Officer license. So my degree was actually Marine Engineering Systems, which includes a little bit of design and naval architecture, as well as regular marine engineering. When I graduated, I was a third assistant engineer, unlimited horsepower, steam and diesel. So that's something that, again, is a bit different. And it is a graduation requirement. You can't just get out with a Bachelor of Science degree and a commission. So the other thing that I do want to highlight that's a little bit different is the obligations are to work in the maritime industry for 5 years, maintain a Coast Guard license for 6 years. Each license is good for 5 years, so you have to have at least one renewal. And then the thing that is quite a bit different than the other academies is we can either serve in five years on active duty in any of the nation's armed forces or NOAA, or 8 years in the Navy Reserve. My brother actually was an Air Force grad. He was a pilot, just retired from Delta last year. My initial reason for going to Kings Point was actually to do flight. It seems like a bit of an odd path, but depending on needs of the Army, needs of the Navy, needs of the Air Force, no one really guarantees you a flight slot. This is the only academy that you can actually talk with the different service branches, and they can't guarantee that you'll get out of flight training, but you can certainly talk to them about getting a slot in flight school before you commit. Again, we're the only academy that does that. Academic, right? We actually have much less choices than the other academies because we are primarily a maritime or shipping academy. We essentially have 5 degrees. The first 2 are deck. So has everything to do with navigation, as well as all the business operations, cargo loading, and then three engineering, basically three engineering majors: marine engineering systems, which is what I was, which is really more of the design and naval architecture, and then marine engineering and shipyard management. We are D3 athletics, not D1. So I would say for most of the folks that want to do D1 sports, you're not going to be coming to KP on that. In terms of activities, I was a member of the Power Squadron. Was a crew chief on a 47-foot sailboat that we regularly took out offshore. In addition, I was in the band. I marched in Bush Senior's inauguration. And then we can see some of the other activities there as well. So this is representative of what's pretty different about about Kings Point. It is the C year. So we are on a trimester, not a semester system. So 3 trimesters, basically we're out in the world. And whether that is somewhere like Antarctica or Greenland, or in my case, it was actually Mediterranean, Middle East, as well as Far East. And basically what you're expected to do is work as a Sea Cadet. So it is considered a engineering training role on each of these ships. And the ships are not training ships. These are regular commercial ships. We have established, programs with a bunch of the top US shipping companies. And so basically you will work 8 hours a day, and then you're also expected to do a project. It's actually called the Sea Project, and it basically proves that you have the practical experience. I'll say after graduation, one of the things that a lot of employers certainly enjoy with Kings Point graduates is they have a year's experience by the time they graduate. There's really no other academy that really provides that same level of experience. We do obviously wanted to just show you a couple of options. We certainly can't, while I mentioned a lot of the commercial options for SEER, we certainly do have, in fact, one of my classmates that did his SEER on a LA class sub out of the West Coast. The other thing you may want to note at the bottom is our motto, acta not verba, deeds not words. We actually do put that into place every single day. My graduating class was, a little over 270 people. It is a very tight-knit community. We get together every 5 years. And I think this has been the last 6 years in a row, not just Kings Point, but my class in particular has enjoyed the highest alumni participation of any of the 5 service academies. So again, acta not verba in action. Some more pictures around the world, right? We do see the submarine in the upper right-hand corner. We have someone standing in a shipyard, and as well, actually in my class, I think there were 16% of people of my class that went into flight, and that wasn't just naval flight. We actually had 2 people Marine Corps flight. I think there was 1 person in Army rotary wing flight as well. So again, very similar to the other academies, right? The math, science, the whole STEM background is going to be very important. your ACT and SAT scores. For us, the nomination is from a representative or senator, not from the vice president. And I know that that's actually a little bit different than some of the other academies. The application process opens May 1st. Deadline is on February 1st. Certainly can talk to anyone that's interested afterwards about getting in contact with any of the admissions officers. I'm going to actually take just a few minutes after this presentation to just talk a little bit about what this has meant to me. I went to high school a little bit west of here in Aurora. I'm actually living in Sugar Grove now, but for about 15 years, I was out on the East Coast. So as far as when I got commissioned by the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell. I interned at the Pentagon under Strategic Sea Lift. And then upon graduation, I actually worked for the Maritime Administration, DOT, not DOD. And I was a logistics basically expert for all big gray ships without guns on the East Coast. All of my maritime duty was actually in civilian ship managers. So a lot of times the government, in this case, the Department of Transportation, has a lot of transport ships. That's great. They just don't necessarily have the expertise as to how to operate them. So basically, that's what I did in my maritime career for about 6 years. Specifically taking advantage of my marine engineering and naval architecture. I was actually a port engineer for quite a bit of that time as well. I guess the other thing, like I said, we do provide a little bit more, a little bit different options in terms of which service you actually do want to go into. I will say that, you know, normally the starting salary for grads is anywhere between 60 to like 120 right out of school. So anyway, thank you, everyone. Very much appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Vogt, for your presentation. Our last presentation today will be from the United States Coast Guard Academy representative. Please welcome U.S. Coast Guard Academy admissions partner, David Smith.
Good morning. This is David Smith. Do you see my slides yet?
We're not seeing it.
All right, hold on here. Do you see it now?
No, but I can pull it up.
Now let me try one more time here. And hit share. See it now?
Yes.
Okay. First off, I'd like to thank Representatives Caston, Foster, and Underwood for inviting me this morning. They actually do not nominate candidates to the Coast Guard Academy. The Coast Guard Academy is the one service academy that does not require a congressional nomination, but they are generous and allow us to attend and provide a viewpoint of what the Coast Guard Academy is. So I do appreciate that. I'd like to introduce myself. I did not go to the Coast Guard Academy, but I had a daughter that went to the Coast Guard Academy. So I'm a parent. So I'm very similar to the parents that are sitting out there. I've gone through this process with my daughter. She graduated in 2014 with a degree in marine environmental science. She's currently a civil engineer working in the civil engineering department at Norfolk, Virginia. So she, like 85% of her fellow graduates, is still serving after her 5-year commitment. The Coast Guard in general has the highest retention rate, satisfaction of all the different service branches. She's also like 80% of the graduates of the Coast Guard Academy. She already has her master's degree. She went for 2 years to Texas A&M and got her master's degree in ocean engineering. So you've seen the other academies talk about the opportunity for graduate school. That is another very strong benefit of going this path, is the opportunity to attend graduate school and have that education paid for as well by the government. I want to talk a little bit about what's different about the Coast Guard Academy, and I'll try to highlight that as I go forward. The first major difference is
Dave, we're having some technical issues and I think you're
Okay, good. It's just one moment while we figure out this technical difficulty, please. Dave, it looks like we have you back now. We did lose you for a second.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not quite sure why that happened, technology. But again, the Coast Guard is what I would consider maritime guardians. From national defense as part of Homeland Security, they deal with port safety, anti-terrorism, and Homeland Security. But they also deal with environmental protection. For instance, when the BP oil spill happened in the Gulf of Mexico, the Coast Guard was the lead agency. They also do maritime safety. So search and rescue is a big component for the Coast Guard. So the mission is different. And that's one of the things that Representative Caston talked about. When you are looking at the different academies, you want to look at the programs of the academies and what's the best fit. But I'd also recommend you also look what happens after you graduate, because you have at least 5 years that you'll be serving in one of those armed forces. So you want to understand what are the opportunities, what are the career paths that are associated with those different services. And that needs to be one of the things that you take into account when you're deciding which ones you want to apply for. And I would definitely recommend applying to multiple. Coast Guard Academy, very similar to the to MMA, is smaller. For instance, the overall enrollment is less than the incoming class for the 3 major academies, but it does have representation across all 50 states and 20 nations. It does not have it does not do that through the nomination process. It does that through an intentional application process and trying to come up with a well-rounded class. It has the highest number of females, both in the actual branch of the Coast Guard as well as the Coast Guard Academy. The Coast Guard Academy, I think, will likely be the first academy to reach 50-50 for female. Why would you pick the Coast Guard Academy? It is a STEM school. It's very highly rated for that. It's a engineering school, top engineering school. Like all of the academies, it has 100% job placement. So you're going to graduate and you're going to get a commission. Like I said, many 85% go on to earn graduate degrees. It is a small school, and because of that, it has like an 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio. The different degrees over here, you'll see does focus more on STEM. You have the different engineering branches. You do have cyber system. You do have operations research. My daughter was marine environmental science, and there's also government and management. Athletics is D3, except for sailing and pistol and rifle, which are Division I. Now, if you are considering playing athletics and you are actually a Division I caliber athlete, then you might be looking at, you know, one of the other academies. But how many people are actually Division I caliber athletes? So your chance to play athletics at a varsity level at the Coast Guard Academy is one of the highest opportunities of any college in the United States. But they also have other club and intramural sports, because just like all the other academies, your athletics is a key component. Just like all the other academies, this is a leadership-driven program. They are trying to develop leaderships of character and trying to develop you into an officer in the Coast Guard. There is an honor concept that you'll find across all the academies, and it's also present here in the Coast Guard Academy. It is a leadership-driven curriculum, so you have 200 weeks of class over those 4 years, and there's always going to be a leadership component. And there is a cadet regimental system, just like you have in the other academies, so the cadets run the academy. And then you also have 4 summer training programs where you're doing intensive interaction to learn more about the Coast Guard, and as well, there are internships and exchange programs available. One thing I wanted to highlight is Coast Guard Eagle, okay? It is a 295-foot 3-masted sailing ship. And you can see there on the picture on the right that those cadets are actually on the yard arm, well above the deck, lowering sails. This is actually a World War II prize from Germany. It was a training ship that the German Navy used, and the Coast Guard took this as part of reparations from World War II, and it's been a key component of the Coast Guard Academy training missions. You would be on this ship for 1 week during your 4th class summer, and then on your 3rd class summer, that is your sophomore year, you would actually be on it for 6 weeks. Admissions, we've talked a lot about this, about the different admissions programs and opportunities from the different academies, and it's very similar, with the one main difference that there's no nomination required for the Coast Guard Academy. So it's all based upon merit. So applications itself, it is online. You would, of course, have your transcript, letters of recommendation. We do use a slightly different candidate fitness assessment. It's a PFE exam. It's a 1.5 mile run. It is sit-ups and it's push-ups. And you would have to have that scored as part of your application. Personal statements. One thing that I do recommend candidates to consider, not just for this academy, Coast Guard Academy, but for any of the different academies, or actually for any school, consider writing a resume. Now, you will have a lot of opportunity to put information into your personal statements and your essays that you're writing. But another opportunity for you is to actually include a resume and upload that as an optional. And that can allow you to add a little bit more texture to what you actually have done in your 4 years of high school to allow you to be judged as a candidate. So please consider writing a resume. When you do that, of course, you would want to make sure that somebody would help review that with you, make sure it's as good as it can be. But that's one thing that can actually help strengthen your application. The SAT, ACT currently is not required, but it's very highly recommended. It's not, you do have candidates that are overseas that do not have the opportunity to necessarily take it. In our area, it would be pretty much expected that you would take it. So I would highly recommend that you would take it and not view it as optional. They do super score just like all the other academies. So it's an opportunity for you to take it multiple times and get your highest possible score. As far as deadlines, there is an early action deadline of October 15th. The nice thing about that is that you get notification by December 23rd, and the regular action is January 15th. And just like all of the different academies, there is a summer camp option. It's a 1 week opportunity between your junior year and senior year. You do have to apply. It's a competitive application to go to the summer camp or AIM. But I would recommend it. It's a very good opportunity for you to actually test drive the academy to see if that is something that would fit for you, to make sure that you understand what it's like. One thing is that year over year, the Coast Guard Academy AIM program is viewed of all the different summer camp options as the most realistic to what it would be like to being at the Coast Guard Academy. Last steps, your next step. The application again is online. You can use this QR code or just go to uscga.edu, start your application. It will allow you to be, you will get information if there's any activities that are occurring in the area. That information will be provided to you. I've also included my contact information. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there with you in person today, but I did provide material and I do have business cards. Questions, please contact me. I'd be very happy to interact with any of you, parents and or students, about what opportunities you can see in your life by going to the Coast Guard Academy. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. And I want to thank all the presenters that came here today for us. So thank you everyone that came, for all the representatives. So we would now like to open the floor for everyone in the audience to ask any questions you may have the Academy representatives. I would ask the representatives right now to please come up to the stage who are present, if obviously virtual. You'll also be hearing these questions. When you do answer the questions, I would ask you guys to repeat the questions when you come up to the podium, just so that the people virtually can also hear. So with that, I'm going to open the floor up. If anyone in the audience would like to ask questions, we'll be taking questions.
Good morning, thank you for providing this information. Quick question, I know West Point, you get a commission either in the Army or in the Navy or the Marine Corps, or how does that work? And the same question to the other two.
Yeah, you're going to West Point, you're going to get commissioned in the Army. There is on occasion an opportunity to do a swap of to one of the other services. That is never guaranteed. It's based on the needs of the services at the time. So that you're guaranteed a commission in the Army through West Point.
Yeah, typically when we've seen that at the Naval Academy, it's usually some sort of a medical issue or some sort of issue with commissioning into the Navy. So there was a friend of mine that graduated the year after I did, and he was actually medically disqualified for naval aviation. He was somehow qualified for Air Force aviation, so he was able to commission over into the Air Force. So typically, yeah, you're not going to see a whole lot of that. The Service Academy is going to commission into their assigned service.
Same with the Air Force Academy, pretty much the same thing as the other two, but you can commission into the Space Force, and that is it is a process and you have to apply for it, but I mean, if you want it, you can get it.
Thank you. And Merchant Marine Academy would probably be the exception there with having the multiple options. I don't know the technicalities of how you go, where you do your branch selection or your service selection, but that one will be the most different of ours.
And Mike is nodding his head. Mike, you're welcome. For our virtual folks, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you have anything to add.
Yep, thanks. So I would say the most graduates from Kings Point end up going into the 8 years of reserve. That being said, about 15% of my class, and generally when graduates would go into another service academy, generally it's because they want to do flight. So like I said, in my class, I had naval aviators, marine aviators, as well as Army fixed wing aviators. There is also a possibility of going NOAA. NOAA actually does have aviators as well. So again, that's certainly open. And like I said, there is a percentage of graduates that do choose that path.
Would you be able to come up, I'm sorry, to the podium here?
Confusion of Kings Point versus West Point.
Yeah.
They want me up here.
Yeah, just in front of, yeah.
So my daughter is currently in the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and she's got the option. You know, she did her 3 terms at sea. She has the option where she can continue working at sea as an engineer on a boat, which is starting pay is very high, and a lot of people choose to do that because it's hard to turn away that pay. And others go into one of the other services, whether it's Coast Guard, Army, Navy, Air Force. My daughter actually chose to go into the Air Force. So she is going on a path where she'll be going to school with the Air Force engineering, and she's can try and get in Space Force through that area. So that's, I look at the U.S. Merchant Marine, it's kind of limited as your major, but once you get out, you have a lot more opportunities after that. So, sorry, I didn't have a speech plan, but just how it's going on. You're welcome. We're at the table back there.
Thank you. Another question?
So I know after you graduate from the Air Force Academy, you can go into a non-ranked or a ranked job. Is there a similar thing at Navy and Army as well?
Do you mean rated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. What do you mean by rated? I don't understand that. So probably no,
Flying.
but flying?
Fine, yeah.
Oh, well, Army has Army Aviation, which is mostly rotary winged aircraft. So you could be an Army aviator too. I don't know about what the ratings are other than we're more rotary. There are some fixed winged positions too. I wasn't an aviator, so I can't tell you that, but I could tell you a little bit more about the jobs that naval aviators might be doing.
Yeah, and it's so the difference, I guess maybe for Army, you have different jobs within like the Army itself. Whereas for the Navy, it's a little bit different. You have mostly those 5 main ones. So a surface warfare officer, submarine warfare officer, naval aviation, so pilots, NFOs, Marine Corps, and then special warfare. And the thing that might be maybe what you're getting at non-rated would be what we call restricted lines. So those are like the support communities. So we do have a handful every year that'll commission into like the supply corps, the intelligence community, cyber, our medical corps. So those, I guess, would maybe be the non-rated, what we call restricted line officers. So there is that opportunity out of the Naval Academy as well, but most, about 95%, will go into one of those unrestricted line communities.
Was your question specific for flight?
Well, I was like referring to, I know after in the Air Force, you can go like acquisitions, intelligence. I was asking if there's a similar job after like West
Yeah,
Point.
off the top of my head, I can't tell you all the Army branches, but there's about at least a dozen of them. I was an infantry officer. In infantry, it's your traditional soldiering as a soldier, ground maneuver operations. Then we have what we call combat and combat support. So combat would be your infantry, your armor branches. There's an engineering. You probably have heard of the Army Corps of Engineers, usually talked about with dams and and the levees. In times of not always in happy times, but they do a lot of construction projects. They have a combat support mission and they have a civilian support mission too, is what you often hear of stateside. I mentioned the Army Aviation. There's all kinds of other support. Military intelligence is a phenomenal way to go. That's probably a correlation among all the services. They all have their own intelligence division. So, but they all designed to support operations related to the specific service. So the best source I'd have to direct you to would be online, the Army branches. But I could tell you a little bit more about any you may have an interest in. I take a quick peek at it, might jar my memory and tell you a little bit more later.
Great. Any other questions in the audience?
So for each branch, what's the minimum required active duty after graduation? And is there also a component of, reserve?
5 years, all of us.
Yeah, so the question, sorry for those online if you haven't been hearing this, but the question was, what's the required service commitment? And it is 5 years for all the main service academies. The only difference, I think, maybe would be the Naval Academy, which has an additional service commitment for aviation. So for naval aviation, it ends up being about 9 to 10 years total, depending on how long flight school takes, anywhere from 2 to 3 years for flight school. And then that translates to your additional service requirement. But basic answer is a 5-year service commitment.
Except for Kings Point.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, right, for Kings Point, it's 5 years if you choose to do active duty. If you choose not to do active duty, it's 8 years in the inactive reserves.
Coast Guard is similar. It's 5 years for service, but if you choose flight in Coast Guard, which is either fixed or rotary, it typically would then be that 9-year period, because again, the government's investing a lot of money in your training to be a pilot.
Barring any other special service program that may incur at a time, legally, it's an 8-year commitment for any of the academies. You have your 5-year active, which is what we were speaking of, but there is a 3-year added reserve commitment. So again, depending on the needs of the service at the time, that may be an active service or reserve commitment, and maybe an inactive individual ready reserve commitment. That's the pool that I fell into in my time of service. From there, you could, if you work with a National Guard program, that would be a transition out of there. I could tell you more of those details. I would say though, if you are, that reserve time is waived though, if you stay on active duty more than 5 years.
I saw we had a question up front.
Could you talk a little bit about the summer programs, like for high school juniors and seniors?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So summer programs, it's probably the same throughout the other 2 academies. I went to the Naval Academy Summer Seminar, not the USAFA one, but I mean, it's pretty much a watered down version of what being a cadet is like. You attend some classes, you get to meet some new people, eat in the dining halls and live in the dorms and be woken up to yelling every morning, at least from what I remember. So yeah, it's pretty much just a culmination of 4 years pretty much condensed into 1 week, and they do a very good job. So I would recommend applying if you are a junior going into your summer of your senior year, because I know for the Air Force Academy, that kind of waives your pre-candidate questionnaire. So that saves you another, a lot more time when you're a senior trying to figure everything out. So.
Yeah, we have a similar program for juniors, and then it's that summer leadership program, or I think as Merchant Marine Academy put it, a test drive. For seniors specifically, we don't obviously have a summer program because you're going to go to plebe summer, but we do have some academic year programs. So we call them candidate visit weekends. So if you're any seniors out there that are interested, you can sign up to come visit the Naval Academy for a weekend. You basically show up on a Thursday night. You'll get assigned a midshipman. You'll stay with them in their room. Friday, you'll go to class with them and kind of hang out with them throughout the day. And the program concludes on Saturday. So if you weren't able to do that summer program as a junior, it's another good way to get on campus and actually experience life at the Naval Academy.
Similar with Army, the one thing I would add is that to sign up for that program, if you've started a file, which you could start files as juniors, after about Christmas break or so, there'll be, if you have a file started, you'll have a notification that you could sign up for that, the summer, we call it Summer Leaders Seminar, SLS. Acronym changes every year, same type of program though. And there's usually 2 sessions, like a 1 week session, another week session. I think they might have added a third. They've been virtual because of the COVID issues the last couple of years. I don't know if that will continue. It's not nearly the same as being in person, but it's been mainly based on first come, first serve. If you don't get into the summer seminar, it doesn't mean you're not going to get in if applying to the Service Academy. It's a good way to kind of do that, get that exposure. But if you don't get in, it's not the end of the world. I get a question a lot of time, summers are busy for you guys, right? You're in lots of activities. Somebody had some major club tournament someplace the same time their summer seminar was for Army. So go to your club thing. And it's what your opportunity for doing what you do in your life and your activity where you have your passion and you're building your story of what kind of character you are. That's going to be more important towards your application process. But if you could work them in, do both of them, ideal that you do it. But if you have a very high PSAT score, when you take your PSAT score, if you haven't already, you may get an invitation to apply for that summer seminar because the academies will do a little bit of recruiting on the academic side too, to bring you into that program. Because sometimes we overlap in the time we do our programs too. So I think, but obviously there you see, get exposed to at least one of them, you got a flavor of what the others may be like.
For the Coast Guard Academy, again, is very similar. It is a competitive application, so you do have to apply, and it is competitive. So not everybody will get into the AIM program, which is a summer camp. But again, just like the other representatives have stated, not making it into that summer program does not mean that you're not a viable candidate to apply to the Coast Guard Academy. So it is an opportunity, one that I would recommend if you're a junior to consider.
And for Kings Point, there's no summer program per se, but there absolutely is a shadow program. I think similar to Annapolis and excuse me, West Point and Air Force, where basically you would shadow a midshipman, and that's basically a 2-day activity. So you actually do get to experience a day in the life of a midshipman. And I think that's generally a third classman.
Any other questions in the audience?
Hello. I was wondering what kind of non-traditional avenues you've seen people come into the Service Academy, whether they went the enlisted route and then something like that, or like your college transfer, if that's even possible. For kids that need a little extra, to possibly qualify.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's about 25% of every class, for at least for I know military academy, comes in with either some prior college. They may have gone to college for a year or two. You could be, it's more age than education. You got to be, can't be older than 22 years old. You're on the day of admission for your class. I think in previous years they might have even pushed it to 23. There's been a lot of a lot of those people come in from the service, the active duty. They maybe they're working in an active unit. They've enlisted after high school. They've proven the leadership experience and thought about they want to make it move towards more of a career path, and then they'll apply for instead of coming out and going to college. Well, college is on the horizon, and they look at the academy as their first choice. So it is quite common. And I will have to say too that most of those cadets, that 25% that come in with either prior college or a prior service experience, a lot of them end up becoming leaders within the class. There's a class, you have a class rank almost from day one. You're the same evaluation of you as a cadet as a candidate for admissions. That there's similar criteria that gets tracked for your class. You definitely, you don't have a class rank out here in Naperville, but you definitely have a class rank at the service academies. And that order of merit gets established as the opportunities you get to do for other certain activities. Those that have that prior service or prior experience generally have that little bit of added maturity, a little bit more edge to being able to study or just organize their military aspect of being in the environment, and that helps them to do better and that merit leads to added opportunities as cadets. So
Yeah, so going off of that, if your grades are kind of not where you want them to be, or if, let's say you really want to be an engineer or something within the, like academies or something like that, or afterwards in the service, and your math and science really aren't where you want to be, then a lot of kids will go to college for a year, community college, take a lot of STEM courses and try to up their grades and try to validate while they're at the academy, which is possible with some classes. You can validate and get those credits taken care of and lighten up your load a lot freshman year, which is highly recommended if you can. I was a direct admission, but one of my best friends at USAFA, he entered while he was 22 and, or no, 21, excuse me. He went to community college right after high school because he wanted to get his grades up, and he was also 300 pounds when he graduated high school. So we knew he had to get in shape. So he got in shape, he worked towards it, and then he got into a prep school. So he went to a prep school, not the Air Force Academy prep school, but he went to one, and then he just worked on his fitness and his grades, and then he got into the academy. So it really helped him, just get to where he's at. And now he's a pilot. So, I mean, success stories, we all love to hear them. So definitely do what you got to do if that's something that you are really interested in.
Do AP courses transfer into the academy?
Some.
Yeah, I think the general consensus probably for at least the three of us is it kind of depends. So there are certain courses, typically your core courses, that every cadet or midshipman will take. There are certain courses that an AP credit or a certain score on the AP test will what we call validate that course. So then you can start. So calculus is a big one. So Calc 1 or Calc AB, you can potentially validate that with a certain score on the AP test, and then you can start in Calc 2, for the Naval Academy or whatever it is for the other course. I typically don't hesitate to give out the scores and the courses because they do change from year to year. So at least in the Naval Academy, our academic department goes through and they look at different requirements. They look at the test every year, but generally speaking, you can get some AP credit. There are other ways to validate courses aside from AP credit. One of those are placement tests. I know the Naval Academy, I assume the other two do as well, have placement tests during plebe summer. Like chemistry is a big one because all freshmen at the Naval Academy will take chemistry. And then there is the opportunity, if you do have some other college credit that you're coming into the Naval Academy with, you can meet with the academic advisors and kind of talk about what courses you took, what the curriculum was set up like, and they'll come up with a plan to maybe help you receive some credit there. But long story short, yes, there is the ability to get some of that AP credit counted towards your requirements at the academies.
They don't validate English though. So I took 2 years of AP English, did not validate at all because you got to take 2 years of English, but it did validate the language. So if you aren't keeping up with your language and stuff, take the placement test and it'll knock out some of your language requirements.
You still had 20 credit hours. Did you? That's the most.
I think I'm 19. Yeah.
Yeah, you get rewarded.
You too.
Yeah. Your reward for doing well is you get to take a different course instead. So keep that in mind.
But it helped senior year because senior year I had 4 classes aside from the normal 6, 7. So I got to stay in my room for most of the day and have fun. So yeah. Hey.
You have fun in your rooms. I've seen your rooms. They're nice.
They're beautiful. They're nice and big dorms.
Do we have any other questions in the press?
Hi, so I know the Air Force Academy offers like the Falcon Scholarship. And my question was for Lieutenant Schmerber, if there was something similar at the Naval Academy, like besides the prep school, if there's like something similar to that.
So the Falcon Scholarship, does that include, I'm guessing, uniforms and all that stuff? Is that what the Falcon Scholarship
Just
is?
pretty much like STEM programs for middle school and high school kids.
Oh, okay. Completely different then. Yeah, so we do have scholarships for, it's for summer programs, right? Is that what you're looking for? No?
I thought, sorry, I thought it was something else.
Oh, so what is the, so what do you, yeah, what is the Falcon Scholarship
I
then?
thought it was not the prep school at the Air Force Academy.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
the prep schools around the country.
Sure.
That's what you mean.
Yeah, so you're talking about, yeah, the civilian prep schools. If you go to civilian prep instead of the service academy related prep school, yeah, we do. So typically what happens is there's 50% is for the Naval Academy, 50% is covered tuition by the foundation. And then it's based on your financial need, and the school will work with you to come up with, how much of that remaining 50% you owe. So there is at least 50%, and then the rest of it's kind of based on, your own personal background and need.
Same with that.
Yeah, I've got a question that hasn't been asked, and then I'll give you my answer and I'll turn it over to Pam. I'm sure there's a lot of freshmen, sophomores, and juniors in here. You're not in the application process and you're thinking, okay, I want to go to service academy. What do I need to be doing? What do I need to be thinking about now in order to prepare myself for that? Number one, I think you've heard from all presentations, academics is paramount, and particularly math science. Okay, if you're not doing well in those courses, you need to get some extra help. Make sure you do well in academics. Number two, physical fitness. Make sure you're keeping physically fit throughout your high school career. Play sports or have your own exercise regimen, but the physical regimen at the academy is hard. I was out there a couple of years ago for training when the police reported all fresh from high school, and the word came across that 50% of the incoming police class failed the first physical readiness test right out of the bat, because they all passed the CFA, the candidate fitness test, and they, decided graduation parties were a lot of fun, and they let it slack, and they reported it, and they couldn't pass the first test. It's hard, so make sure that you're maintaining that physical fitness throughout. And then for the rest of it, I'll just take you through what I as a Blue Gold officer in the interview process look for, and the criteria that I'm supposed to evaluate and convey to the academies. Number one is leadership. And this doesn't mean that you have to be president of the student council or captain of the football team or have some other specified role. It's what is the potential. I'm looking for potential for a leader. And when I sit down and I talk to you about what you're doing, what have you done, what's your resume look like? Do you have meaningful service opportunities? Have you taken advantage of the times when you can help others? Okay, it's not just about having a title of captain of the team or some sort of elected office. It's what do you do day to day, and are those opportunities that you've undertaken, are those volunteer positions you've undertaken, are they meaningful? Believe me, you can see right through padding on the resume. So don't pad your resume with meaningless activities and not be able to talk about it. It's important for leadership. Number two is organization. What's your time management skills? You guys, when you get to the academy, you saw the schedules that a lot of the presentations put up there. Wake up at 6 in the morning and you're running till 10 at night. And you have to fit everything in. It's a hard academic schedule. You got to play sports, intramurals, varsity athletics. It's a lot to fit in, and it's a challenge. And like Lieutenant Schroeder said at the academy, at the Naval Academy, we want you to succeed 89%. We want you to get through and graduate. The worst thing that's going to happen to you is you get behind that time. So you got to start building those skills now in high school, is how you're going to manage and organize your time. Number three, and I would actually maybe put this in front of leadership, is what's your interest and motivation? Why do you want to be here? It's usually the first question I ask. With good answers or bad answers. Bad answer is, I really want to go to school for free. That's bad answer. Bad answer is, well, I really like to fish and I like boats. I figured the Navy is kind of cool. Bad answer. The academies are supposed to build and produce officers in one of the services, and it's serious business. You're responsible for people's lives. You have to really dig deep and understand what am I getting myself into in 5 years, because that's what we're looking for. So we're looking to understand what's driving. Why are you trying to make this choice for your life? Because it's 4 years and then it's 5 years after. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily a long time. You choose to make it a career, make it 20 or 30 years. Great, it could be fun. But it takes a special kind of person, and there's a lot of those in this room, to make that kind of commitment. Yeah, I'm just going to regular civilian school, kind of fun. Graduating makes a lot of money. Because believe me, apart from, I guess, merchant marines, you're not going to make a lot of money right off the bat. This is a different choice of path in life. We want to know why are you sitting in front of us, what's the motivation. And I think lastly, oral communication skills are important. Sit down at that interview, I'm looking to see how you carry yourself, how do you comport yourself. Take advantage of opportunities, get up in front of people and speak. Because the important form of communication skills is you're going to graduate, you're going to be a leader. You're going to have to get up in front of 20, 40 sailors or soldiers or airmen. You're going to have to communicate. And you have to be able to communicate effectively and succinctly in order to be a good leader, in order for those people to have confidence. So make sure that while you're in high school, you're taking advantage of the opportunities to build those skills. And it's not all texting on your phone. You actually have to talk to people. And that's what being an officer is all about. So I just encourage you to think about those things as you go along this path. And at whatever stage you're at, start building your skill set so that when you're ready to go to academy, when you're ready to sit down in an interview and fill out that application, you've got the background to draw. And take this simple.
Amen.
Yeah.
Any more questions from the audience?
Yeah, so I gotta ask, what exactly is the Space Force? Is it actually well defined yet? And how does one get into the specialization within the academy? You take other classes, you have to apply.
Space Force, I really have no idea what it does. So, I mean, they operate satellites, I should say. They've taken over GPS from the Air Force, which is, I mean, if you want to do that. And then you can do intelligence within the Space Force, so you can be like a space operator. And those are the two career fields that I know of very well. But yeah, with other specializations, you can actually go special forces within the Air Force, which not a lot of people know about. You can do STO, CROW, TACP, PJ, like pararescue, stuff like that, which is pretty cool. You just have to go through selection and go through that whole entire process. It's kind of like another basic training that you have to go through, but you're going through it in order to be a specialized officer in that area. And then Space Force, yeah, you pretty much just put in another application. As of right now, you put in an application and they look through it. And they're like, okay, your class rank, your grades, why you want to be in the Space Force. That's it.
So we have time for one more question. Let's do one more.
Yeah, I just had a question about like choosing majors. Like, is that something you choose like during the application, or is it like that it's set with like general ed and then choose your major after you get accepted in, or is there even a chance to change it?
Very good question. You don't choose it right away. Within your first year, you'll get exposed to the different departments. I believe I think in my case, it was my second year that we chose, but I just, in slides that I was briefing from, which I got from West Point recently, it looks like you're choosing the major in the middle of your first year. So you'll have a basis of information to make your decision and exposure to each of the departments. It's one of the things by having all the core courses that helps with that, but the other services may have a different answer.
Pretty much the same thing. I know I picked my major when I was a freshman, but I hadn't up until October of my sophomore year to do it. And you can always change your major throughout. But when you start getting into those majors classes, it gets a lot harder and you'll stack on more credit hours that you really don't want. So yeah, I would recommend trying to find something that you like. And then if you do validate more classes, the more opportunities you get to take astronautical engineering, aeronautical engineering, stuff that might interest you if you are a STEM major, then you could weed out, yeah, I really didn't like astro, or yeah, I really liked aero, learning how to fly planes, stuff like that.
Yeah, same process at Naval Academy. Pretty much halfway through freshman year, you'll decide on that major. And I do just want to emphasize, it is tough to switch majors. You can do it, but based on those core courses that you have to take at all the service academies, it becomes increasingly difficult to switch majors. You're talking, 140 to 150 total credits to graduate, and you have to graduate in 4 years at all the service academies. So it is possible, but probably difficult. And that's why we give the students some time initially to kind of figure out where they fit in and what they want to do before they have to make that decision.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and thank you to our Service Academy reps again for being here and answering questions. So this is going to finalize our Q&A session. For those who are present, we'll now be operating information tables to provide further resources or answers. Unfortunately, the U.S. Coast Guard does not have anyone here, but they did want to thank you all for attending. And also there is information and business cards on one of the tables in the back. And I do want to thank everyone, both virtual and in person, for bearing with us. It's a very difficult process to make virtual live and to make live virtual. So thank you for your patience. And at this time, we are going to now open up these information tables. So please go around, ask any remaining questions or any personal questions. And thank you all again.